I always thought my life was stable, unshakable. 10 years of marriage, a comfortable home, 2 kids who lit up my world, and a career I had clawed my way into through sheer discipline. I believed Julie and I were a team, partners in every sense of the word. We had built dreams together, shared secrets at 2 in the morning, whispered promises in the dark. But life has a way of teaching you that trust is more fragile than glass. One wrong word, one hidden truth, and suddenly the world you built can crack into shards that cut deeper than any knife. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and keep watching, because the best part's coming up next. It began with small things, the sort of details you almost dismiss because you don't want to face what they might mean. Julia's laughter, once bright and effortless, began to sound forced. She looked at me differently, her eyes distant, as if she were already somewhere else. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, now stayed face down at dinner, its screen lighting up with secrets she wouldn't share. And the late nights at work, always explained away with a tired smile and too many projects, became too frequent to ignore. At first I told myself not to be paranoid. Marriage ebbs and flows, I reminded myself. People change. Stress weighs on everyone differently. But denial is like a rope tightening around your throat. You keep convincing yourself you can breathe until the air is gone. The confirmation came one rainy night. Julia was in the shower, humming faintly behind the bathroom door. Her phone buzzed across the dresser, and something in me, some desperate need for the truth, made me pick it up. The message was simple. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. The name beneath it made my chest tighten. Ryan. Her coworker. I remember standing there, staring at the glowing words, the sound of running water filling the silence around me. My hands shook, not with rage at first, but with disbelief. My knees felt weak, as though the floor itself had turned to sand. I'd given her everything. My loyalty, my love, my trust. I had worked long nights to provide this life, thinking she stood beside me in it. And she had traded it away for a cheap thrill in some office fling. For hours I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me. Anger rose and receded like waves in a storm. But beneath it came a sharper, colder thought. If I confronted her now, she'd lie. If I begged, she'd twist it. And if I stormed out, she'd walk away with everything we had built, and I would be the fool left bleeding. No. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. If she wanted war, then I would fight it on my terms. Quietly, precisely. And when the dust settled, she would be standing in ruins of her own making. The next morning, while she packed the kids' lunches, I forced myself to smile. I kissed her cheek, tasted the betrayal lingering there, and left for work. On the outside, nothing had changed. On the inside, a fire was lit that would never be extinguished. That afternoon, I hired a private investigator. His name was Carter, a wiry man with sharp eyes, the kind who looked like he'd spent decades watching the world from shadows. He didn't waste words. "You want confirmation?" he asked, his pen scratching across a notepad. "I want proof," I said. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "Photos, dates, locations. I want their lies pinned down so tightly they can't wriggle free." Carter gave a slow nod. "Then, you'll have it." Weeks passed like years. Julia grew bolder, staying out late, claiming client dinners, returning with perfume that wasn't hers clinging to her clothes. Each time she walked through the door, smiling like nothing was wrong, my stomach twisted. But I stayed silent. I had to. Then Carter delivered. A thick envelope landed on my desk one gray morning. Inside, photographs. Julia and Ryan tangled in a hotel room bed. Their mouths locked in a parking lot kiss, their hands clasped in bars, at restaurants, places they thought no one important would see them. Each photo was a dagger, but with every cut, my resolve hardened. At night, while Julia scrolled through her phone beside me, I studied those images on my laptop in silence. She had no idea I knew, and that ignorance was my greatest weapon. Like what you see? Click like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned. Let's keep going. The next step was financial. I began moving quietly, like a man preparing for a storm only he could see on the horizon. I rerouted my salary into a private account. I shifted investments into a trust under my brother's name. Every dollar I moved was another shield between Julie and the fortune she thought she'd inherit from me. I wasn't reckless. Every move was calculated, documented, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking closely. Julia certainly wasn't. She was too distracted by her affair, too sure she was in control. Then came the lawyer, Diana, a woman with cold eyes and a sharper mind than anyone I'd ever met in business. When I laid out the evidence, she didn't gasp, didn't even blink. She simply smiled. "She thinks she'll bleed you dry," Diana said. "But we'll make sure it's the other way around. By the time this is over, she'll wish she'd never heard Ryan's name." We crafted the strategy like generals before battle. I documented everything. The night she didn't come home until midnight, the sudden luxury purchases, the money slipping mysteriously from our joint account. When Julia thought I was distracted with work, I was recording every betrayal in neat, organized files. And through it all, I played the loving husband. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day in the evenings. I made dinner when she was too tired. The performance was exhausting, but necessary. You can't strike until your enemy's guard is fully lowered. The confrontation came on a crisp autumn evening. The driveway was scattered with leaves, the air carrying that sharp bite that foretells winter. I walked inside with the folder in my hand, my heart pounding like a war drum. Julia stood at the kitchen counter, sipping wine. "Michael, you're home early," she said, her voice light, casual. "Yes," I replied, setting the folder down between us. "I thought we should talk." She frowned, then flipped it open. Photos spilled out like confessions. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, her face hardening into something colder. "You've been spying on me?" "You've been lying to me," I answered. My voice was steady, colder than I felt inside. For a moment, her mask cracked, and I saw fear flash in her eyes. But Julia was always quick, always ready with a lie. "We can work through this," she said, her tone suddenly soft. "It doesn't have to end everything." "It already has," I said. "I've spoken to a lawyer. Divorce papers are ready." The wine glass trembled in her hand. "You can't do this. You'll lose everything. We'll lose the house, the kids." "No," I interrupted, cutting through her words like a blade. "You'll lose everything. I've protected myself. The house, the assets, the accounts. They're already secured. You'll walk away with nothing but the choices you made." Her face drained of color. "You can't. I can. And I will." The weeks that followed were chaos for Julia. She screamed, she cried, she threatened. But every accusation she hurled crumbled against the mountain of evidence Diana presented. Judges don't look kindly on adulterers, especially when their infidelity is documented down to the date and hour. The kids stayed with me. The house stayed with me. The accounts stayed with me. Julia left with barely enough to rent a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. But the war wasn't over. Ryan's downfall arrived like a second sunrise. Carter had uncovered whispers of financial misconduct at his firm, and soon the whispers became headlines. Embezzlement, fraud, charges that shattered his career. He was escorted out of his office in handcuffs, and Julia was there to watch. Her lover turned liability. Her parents, once so proud, stopped taking her calls. Friends who once envied her life now whispered behind her back. She was a pariah, abandoned by the very world she had traded me for. I watched it all unfold from a distance, never gloating, never intervening. She had built her tower on lies, and now it collapsed under its own weight. Sometimes, late at night, when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, I think about those early years with Julia. The laughter we shared, the plans we made, the nights when I believed her love was as deep as mine. Part of me still mourns that illusion. But another part of me, the part that survived the fire, knows this. I did not just endure her betrayal. I mastered it. I turned her cruelty into a weapon she never saw coming. She thought she was clever, slipping away into shadows. She thought I'd crumble when I found out. But I didn't. I rose. And now, when I pass her on the rare occasions she picks up the kids, I see it in her eyes. Regret, not just for losing me, but for underestimating me. She wanted everything. Instead, she has nothing. As for me, I have peace, hard-earned, cold as steel, but mine all the same. You know, what strikes me about this story is how controlled Michael stayed. Most people, when they find out they've been betrayed, explode, rage, confrontation, chaos. But he didn't. He turned his pain into strategy. That makes the revenge not just satisfying, but chilling. It's less about destroying Julia and Ryan, and more about reclaiming his power with precision. In a way, it shows us that patience and planning can be deadlier than anger. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Michael's revenge was justified? Or did he go too far? I'd love to hear your perspective.